As he stepped away, Jiwoo arrived from the opposite side of the room, looking more composed than earlier but no less intense. He caught Hana's eye instantly. "I need to speak with you, alone." There was a note of urgency beneath his calm tone, and Hana followed him out to the terrace without argument. Outside, the cool night air felt like a balm on her skin. Jiwoo stood at the railing, his hands gripping the edge as if trying to steady himself. "What's going on?" she asked, watching his profile under the soft terrace lighting. "I saw you with him," he said. "Elias?" Her breath hitched slightly. "Is that why you brought me out here?" "No. Yes, I don't know." Jiwoo turned to face her. "Hana, I never wanted this to get complicated. I thought I could keep it all clean, professional, focused, but watching him look at you like that." "Like what?" she challenged, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like you're someone he could have," Jiwoo said. "Like he already has something I've kept myself from reaching for." The air between them thickened. "Then why keep holding back?" Hana asked quietly, emotion threading her voice. Jiwoo looked stricken for a beat, then stepped forward, closer than he had all night. "Because if I reach for you," he murmured, "I don't think I'll be able to let you go." The confession hung between them, heavy and aching. And before either could say another word, a camera flash lit the terrace. They turned just in time to see a woman in a silver dress, clearly press, lowering her phone with a satisfied grin. "Oh," she said, "didn't realize this was a moment. But don't worry, I've got the best angle." She vanished back into the gala before they could respond. Hana stared after her, stunned. "She's press. That's going to be everywhere tomorrow." Jiwoo ran a hand through his hair. "I'll handle it." Hana turned to him, conflicted. "You just told me you don't want to let go. But we're standing here, already halfway into a scandal." "We'll deal with that later," he said, eyes blazing. "Right now I'm more worried about what you want." Her heart pounded. "I want clarity," she said. "From you, from myself." "And Elias?" he asked, unable to hide the bite in his tone. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But this, whatever this is, we can't keep skating around it." Jiwoo stared at her, then gave the smallest of nods. "Then we stop pretending." Jiwoo's words hung in the cool night air, taut with unspoken emotion. His gaze didn't waver as he stepped closer, his presence washing over Hana like a rising tide. Her breath caught. She hadn't allowed herself to dream about them getting together. But now, in the quiet sanctuary of the terrace, with the glittering city behind him and something far too raw in his eyes, she didn't move away. Jiwoo raised his hands slowly, deliberately. His fingers brushed along her jawline, featherlight, as though asking for permission with every breath. Hana didn't pull back. Had pulsa shitara. Her chest rose and fell as if caught in a moment that didn't belong to time. His thumb caressed her cheek, and when their eyes locked, something wordless passed between them. He leaned in. It wasn't rushed. It was careful, testing, an unspoken question hanging in the space between their lips. And when his mouth touched hers softly, hesitantly, it was like touching the edge of something dangerous and divine. Hana's breath hitched. She responded. It was instinctual, like catching herself in a fall and realizing she didn't want to land. Her hand found the front of his jacket, clutching it as the kiss deepened. Jiwoo's other hand moved to the back of her neck, anchoring her, steadying her. The pressure shifted, urgent, fervent. They forgot where they were, who might see, who might care. It was a kiss that broke something open. It was the sound of glass shattering somewhere just inside the building that jolted them apart. They froze, breathless. The spell shattered. Inside, someone had dropped a tray of glasses near the entrance. Laughter and chatter resumed as a server rushed to clean the mess. Hana stepped back slightly, one hand still gripping the railing, her cheeks flushed, lips parted. Jiwoo stared at her, chest heaving, as if he too had been caught in a storm. "I'm sorry," he said, voice rough. "I didn't plan for that to happen." "I didn't either," she whispered. For a second, they just stood there, hearts pounding, unsure what came next. But even before the next words could form, Jiwoo's phone buzzed in his pocket, rapid, urgent. He checked it quickly, his expression shifting. his brows furrowed. He turned the screen so Hana could see. A notification, an entertainment blog. Breaking. Jiwoo Kang, heir to Kang Medical Group, spotted in very intimate moment with a woman. More photos inside. A paparazzi photo, zoomed in, blurred but unmistakably them. On that very terrace, Jiwoo's jaw clenched. Hana blinked. They already posted it? Jiwoo didn't answer. He looked at her again. Not with regret but with something darker. Determined. This changes everything. The next morning, Hana walked through the sliding doors of the hospital and knew something had shifted. People smiled, but with their lips, not their eyes. Conversations paused just a beat too long when she passed. A nurse she usually laughed with looked away mid-sentence. She didn't have to check her phone to know. But she did anyway. There it was. A headline splashed across entertainment blogs, gossip sites, and even a medical news aggregator. Late Night Sparks? CEO Kang Jiwoo and Hanul University Medical Center surgeon share a moment at gala. They also mentioned that both were working on the government-funded national project involving Hanul University Medical Center and Kang Medical Group. The accompanying image showed Jiwoo and Hana standing closely on the terrace, his hand gently cupping her jaw, her eyes lifted toward his, their bodies too near for anything to be entirely innocent. It had been right before he kissed her. But no one knew that. They didn't need to. The implication alone was enough to set the internet on fire. Comments ranged from scandalous speculation to brutal judgment. Unprofessional. So that's how promotions happen at Hanul. He's the Kang CEO, she's a staff doctor. That's power imbalance 101. By the time she reached her office, her phone had buzzed 23 times. 3 from her department head, 2 from HR, the rest from colleagues and friends trying to check in. She sat down slowly, numb. A soft knock on her office door startled her. Elias stood in the doorway. His usual calm expression was tinged with something more guarded now. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, even though it wasn't true. He held up his phone. "It's everywhere." "I know. They're saying you two kissed." "We didn't." "Not then," she said. "It was just a moment." "But there was a kiss." She didn't answer. Elias didn't push. Instead, he stepped inside and placed a file on her desk. "Emergency consult. Or 2. They asked for your hands." "I'm not being pulled from surgeries?" He shook his head. "Not yet, but Hana, the board's involved. Your name came up in the exec meeting this morning." Jiwoo didn't deny anything. Her throat tightened. Great. Across town at Kang Medical HQ, Jiwoo faced a much colder room. His parents were seated at one end of the long conference table, flanked by board members, legal advisors, and PR personnel. "We're not interested in micromanaging your life," his mother began. "But this affects the company." Jiwoo leaned back in his chair, emotion absent from his face. "There's nothing inappropriate in the photo." "That doesn't matter," his father said sharply. "Perception is its own truth in our world." One of the board members added, "The merger deal with the German biotech group is in the final phase. They're known for conservative values. We can't afford headlines that suggest recklessness." Another voice chimed in. "They'll want to know why your name is being linked to a hospital employee in such a public way. Was it a relationship? Favoritism? A conflict of interest?" Jiwoo stayed silent. His mother glanced at him carefully. "What exactly is your relationship with Dr. Seo?" Jiwoo met her eyes. "She's not the problem. This company's obsession with appearances is." "She's a junior doctor," his father pressed. "And now she's the subject of public scrutiny because of your proximity. If you care about her, Jiwoo, you will distance yourself from her." Jiwoo's jaw clenched. By mid-afternoon, Hana stood at the nurse's station, barely able to focus on charting her post-op notes. "Seo?" She looked up to see the hospital administrator and the board liaison waiting for her in the hallway. "We'd like a word." Her heart sank. As she walked with them, whispers trailed behind her. She caught sight of Elias down the corridor, watching her with a frown. An hour ago, another photo of them had appeared. It was everywhere. Like the previous one, it wasn't even scandalous, not in the usual sense. A single frame, grainy yet damning. Dr. Hana Seo exiting a car, Jiwoo Kang's tailored coat draped over her shoulders. They weren't touching, but their eyes said enough. She looked up at him with a kind of familiarity that didn't belong in a business meeting. And Heir was looking at her like she was the only thing anchoring him to the ground. The media had a field day. Mysterious woman with Kang conglomerate Heir hospital romance? CEO Jiwoo Kang seen with unknown doctor. Kang family silent amid growing dating speculation. Hana didn't need to see the headlines. The way her colleagues stared was enough. Whispers trailed her down hospital corridors like cigarette smoke clinging, suffocating, impossible to ignore. Dr. Park's smirk was back. Well, looks like someone's using networking a bit too literally, he muttered as she passed by. She said nothing. Just walked into the on-call room, shut the door, and leaned against it. Jiwoo hadn't called, she hadn't expected him to, but some irrational aching part of her still hoped. At the Kang estate, the grand dining hall felt colder than usual, not in temperature but in atmosphere. Jiwoo sat stiffly across from his parents, both dressed immaculately as always. His father, Chairman Kang, cleared his throat and placed the tablet on the table. On screen, the photo. Is this why you've been avoiding family introductions? A hospital fling? Jiwoo didn't flinch. She's not a fling. His mother exhaled through her nose, sharp and elegant. She's beneath you, not because she's a doctor, but because she's already become a liability. Jiwoo's jaw tightened. She's not the one who leaked that photo. Whether she did or not doesn't matter, his father said. The media has already decided. The board is watching you. So is the press. Jiwoo stood slowly, hands in his pockets. His voice was calm, measured, dangerous. I didn't choose to be born into this empire, but since I've been handed the job, I'm doing it my way. That includes the kind of woman I want beside me. His mother stood as well. You think love matters in our world? He met her gaze. No, but character does, and she has more of it than anyone in this room. Then he left, without looking back. Back at the hospital, Hana was going through patient charts when someone knocked lightly on the conference room glass. She looked up. It was Elias. Hey, he said gently, stepping inside. You okay? She gave him the polite, practiced smile she saved for people who meant well. I'm fine, just tired. Elias sat down beside her, elbows resting on the edge of the table. You don't have to do that, he said. Do what? Pretend it doesn't hurt. The gossip, the photo, the silence from him. She didn't answer. After a pause, Elias added, If it were me, I would have protected you first, not my reputation. She looked at him, stepping back as anger rose within her at his criticism of Jiwoo, but looking for a way to tell him off, without creating an awkward work environment. But before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A message. It was Jiwoo. I'm downstairs. If you're not ready to talk, I'll wait. Her breath caught. The hospital courtyard was quiet, the sky heavy with drizzle. Jiwoo stood beneath the awning, dark coat unbuttoned, looking like the storm had followed him there. Hana stepped outside slowly, arms crossed. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said. I wasn't sure you'd ask. They stared at each other for a beat, so many things unsaid between them. I didn't know the photo would leak, he said, voice low. But I should have called. I should have come sooner. You should have stood beside me, she said quietly. He looked stricken. I didn't know if coming would make it worse. You've worked so hard to prove yourself. And now people think I got here by sleeping with you. I know, he said, and I hate that. The rain began to pick up, mist curling around them. I had dinner with my parents, Jiwoo said. They want me to cut ties with you. For optics. Hana blinked, throat tightening. And what do you want? He took a step closer. I want to fight for you, if you'll let me. There was no promise of an easy road, no romantic music, no sweeping declarations. Just his voice, trembling slightly, honest and real. I'm tired of living a life that looks good on paper. I want the one that feels right, that you make feel right. Hana swallowed hard, the walls around her trembling. Finally she said softly, Then start by walking with me, not ahead of me. He nodded. And so, in the quiet rain, with no cameras, no board members, no whispers, just two people who had seen each other at their most unguarded, Hana took the first step. Jiwoo followed, together. A week passed. A week of nods that turned into stares, stares that turned into whispers, and whispers that buzzed louder than heart monitors in the hospital corridors. Hana kept her head high. Patients still needed care. Charts still had to be updated. Surgeries didn't stop because the internet wanted her cancelled. But every time she scrubbed in or stepped into a room, she felt the invisible weight of being watched, judged, gossiped about. And Elias? He hadn't said much since their last conversation. He kept it professional. But his eyes, they lingered, sadder. Like he knew he was losing a battle he never got to fight properly. Would he have felt better if he knew he never stood a chance from the start? Meanwhile, at Kang Conglomerate headquarters, Jiwoo stood before the executive board, sharp in his tailored suit, but not quite hiding the storm in his eyes. The projector behind him still displayed the frozen frame from the tabloid news segment, Jiwoo Kang and Mystery Doctor, a scandal in the making. Vice Chairman Lee cleared his throat. We've weathered many scandals, Jiwoo, but this is personal and dangerous. Jiwoo didn't blink. Is this board seriously debating my qualifications based on my relationship status? We're debating optics, another member snapped. You're not just our CEO, you're the face of a generational empire. You don't get to act like a romantic lead in a drama. Jiwoo's voice dropped, calm but cutting. If you're uncomfortable because I didn't choose a trophy wife or a politician's daughter, say that. The room fell silent. Dr. Seo is a world-class physician and she's done nothing wrong. The only scandal here is your obsession with image over integrity. An older board member, silent until now, finally spoke. You're your father's son, Jiwoo, stubborn, emotional. But if you really want to keep this woman in your life, do it quietly, hide her. Keep her out of headlines. Jiwoo's lips curled into something almost like a smile. Or maybe I do the opposite, maybe I make it loud. The room erupted in gasps and groans. But Jiwoo was already leaving. Later that night at Hana's apartment, she was curled up on her couch, half asleep, when her phone buzzed. Jiwoo? Check the news. You might want to sit down. Heart pounding, she grabbed her laptop, opened the live feed from a major press conference. There he was. Jiwoo Kang, standing at a podium, calm and devastatingly handsome. There's been speculation about my relationship with Dr. Hana Seo. So let me clarify. She's not a mystery woman. She's not a fling. She's someone I deeply respect and yes, someone I'm seeing. Any attempt to discredit her professionally because of me is cowardice. We both built our careers with integrity. That won't change because of a photo. He stepped back. No apologies, no backtracking, just truth. Meanwhile, Elias Kwan watched the same broadcast on the lounge TV, arms crossed, face unreadable. Another resident walked by, pausing. Man, he really said all that on live TV. Guess it's serious, huh? Elias nodded slowly. Yeah, it is. Online, the response was immediate. Hashtags trended. Dr. Seo deserves better. Kang Seo stands tall. Hospital romance or power move. Some fans cheered. Some board members panicked. Investors raised eyebrows. And Hana? She stared at her screen, tears brimming, not from fear or shame, but from the sudden and terrifying reality of being seen. Fully, publicly, without apology. Her phone buzzed again. Jiwoo, come outside. She didn't hesitate. Downstairs, his car was waiting. He stepped out, holding a single umbrella. He looked at her the way he always did, like she was the only quiet in his chaos. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. I wanted to. She hesitated. You just made me a target. I also made you undeniable. They stood there, in the halo of streetlights and soft April rain, the kind of moment people write stories about. And this time, they didn't run, they just held hands, unshaken, unapologetic. Together. The press conference had ended, but the storm it stirred was only beginning. Within 24 hours, every major news outlet in Seoul had headlines like, Heir to Kang conglomerate confirms relationship with resident doctor of mixed heritage. Kang Jiwoo's mystery girlfriend, netizens dig into Dr. Hana Seo's background. And just beneath, the internet dug deeper than anyone asked it to. Hana sat in the residence lounge the next morning, coffee untouched, phone screen flooded with anonymous comments. Of course she's pretty, but that's all. A woman like that will ruin Kang's name. She probably seduced him for status. Half-bloods shouldn't be in leadership anyway. Her hands were cold, her fingers trembling as she tried to tap the screen off. Just then, someone gently pulled the phone from her hand. Jiwoo. Still in his crisp suit from an early board meeting, he set the phone aside and knelt beside her, his tone low and unwavering. Don't read them, he said. She looked at him with a bitter smile. I already did. He cupped her hand. Then let me be louder than they are. She gave him a big smile. Before she could respond, the door opened and Dr. Minho stepped in, his expression a careful blend of faux professionalism and veiled scorn. Well, look who's enjoying a little romance in the lounge, he said, loud enough for the junior residents nearby to hear. Jiwoo stood immediately, not releasing Hana's hand. Dr. Seo is a respected member of your department, Jiwoo said calmly, voice steel beneath the silk. If I hear one more condescending remark directed at her, I'll personally request an audit of this department's leadership conduct. Dr. Minho's eyes widened, his jaw stiffening. He gave a short, insincere bow and quickly left without a word. Hana exhaled shakily. I've never seen him back off like that. Jiwoo turned back to her, brushing a stray curl from her cheek. He's a coward when someone bigger pushes back. And I'll never let him shame you again. That evening, Jiwoo stepped into the grand hall of the Kang family estate. The lighting was warm, polished, too perfect, like everything was staged for a show. And in many ways, it was. His parents were already waiting in the lounge, his mother in a pearl-colored hanbok, his father nursing a glass of aged scotch. You embarrassed us, his mother said before he'd even taken a seat. I told the truth, Jiwoo replied, slowly unbuttoning his blazer. His father leaned forward. And what truth is that? That you've jeopardized the legacy we've spent 3 decades building for a woman with no family name, no political capital, and now a scandal? Jiwoo met his father's gaze evenly. No, I told the truth that I love someone who stands taller in hardship than most people do in comfort. His mother's eyes were cold. She's a child of a single mother, a mixed-race woman in Korea. Do you think society will forget that just because you made a pretty speech? No, he said, voice firm. But I'll remind them that she's also a doctor. Top of her class. The kind of woman who earns her way, every day. The kind of woman who stayed at the hospital for 3 days straight during the virus outbreak last winter, when some, including our board members, fled to Jeju. A flicker of discomfort passed through his mother's eyes. Jiwoo continued, if I walk away from her, I walk away from the very values we claim Kang Medical was built on. I won't do that. Silence. His father poured another glass, but his hand shook slightly. You're making a choice that may cost you the company. I'd rather lose the company than become the kind of man who doesn't stand by the woman he loves. His mother stood, smoothing her hanbok with shaking hands. Then don't bring her here. Not yet. Spare her the cruelty of this family's dinner table. Jiwoo exhaled slowly. I wasn't planning to. The hallways of the teaching hospital buzzed with whispers of the media frenzy, of Jiwoo Kang's interview, and most of all, of the name he'd spoken with such quiet certainty on national television. Dr. Hana Seo. Elise, who had been away for a long time, now stood by the window in the research wing, her tablet in hand, though her attention was far from the report on the screen. From her vantage point, she could see Jiwoo exiting the main building, his expression as composed as ever despite the cameras still trailing him like shadows. A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. Doctor. Elias Kwan stood at the door. You're heading out? She nodded, slipping her tablet into her bag. Yeah. I spoke to the hospital director this morning. My fellowship here is ending earlier than expected. Elias raised a brow. Boston's calling already? A small smile tugged at her lips, tight, practiced. I suppose I belong where the noise is predictable. He didn't push. Instead, he offered a knowing look. For what it's worth, I think you're a brilliant physician. And for what it's worth, Elise said, slinging her bag over her shoulder, I underestimated Dr. Seo. That won't happen again. Later that afternoon, Jiwoo received a short email from Elise, a formal thank you for the opportunity, and a courteous note that she was returning to Boston. No mention of Hana. No goodbyes. He stared at the screen for a long moment, then closed his laptop. There was nothing more to say. By next morning, word spread fast. The media calmed slightly after Jiwoo's public support, but inside the hospital, whispers grew sharper. Jiwoo remained calm and composed, though a part of him wanted to lash out at the press. Still, he held back. Years of dealing with selfish and unreasonable people had taught him restraint. Several senior consultants began discreetly excluding Hana from key rounds. Her patients were reassigned without explanation, and one morning she found her locker emptied. All her belongings placed in a neat box on a chair. No note, no explanation. As she stared at it, Dr. Elias Kwan approached from the corridor. He had sharp eyes and a reputation for being both brilliant and blunt. I heard what happened, he said, motioning to the box. They didn't consult me. Hana tried to hide her emotion. It's fine, I guess I've made things complicated. Good, Elias replied. Complications shake the dirt loose. He looked at her a moment, then added, I've reviewed your patient files. You saved 2 lives last week alone. You deserve better. If they continue to sideline you, I'll request your transfer to my department. We could use someone with your guts. She blinked. Why would you stick your neck out for me? Elias shrugged, smirking. You've been taking punches like a champion since day one, and maybe I hate bullies more than I like playing safe. Just then, Jiwoo entered the hall. The air tensed between the two men for a moment, but Elias simply gave Jiwoo a polite nod and walked off. Jiwoo turned to her. Everything okay? Maybe not yet, she said, but it's getting there.